Good evening, DSA. It's Friday. Well, it's Friday for you. For me, it's Monday, and I got about an hour of sleep last night. I'm in school, writing the script during a class I should be paying attention in, but I have little time this week to actually write this, so I'm scheduling in time now. Anyway, let me explain this video, because many of the following jokes may fly right over your head if I don't. I'm something called a nerd fighter. I'll let the leaders of this group explain what that is.
Hi there, this is John Green.
And I'm Hank Green, and we are the Vlogbrothers on YouTube.
And we are making this video a frequently asked questions video for the purposes of answering some questions that are frequently asked.
People are often confused. Like, for example, what is a nerd fighter?
A nerd fighter is a person who, instead of being made out of like bones and skin and tissue, is made entirely of awesome.
So you're saying that nerd fighters don't fight nerds?
No, we're clearly pro-nerd.
Nerd Fighter is basically just the community that sprung up around our videos, and basically we just get together and try to do awesome things and have a good time and fight against World Suck.
What's World Suck?
World Suck is kind of exactly what World Suck sounds like. It's hard to quantify exactly, but you know, it's like the amount of suck in the world.
Most Vlogbrothers videos are about nerd culture, the importance of knowledge, and the beauty of human consciousness. They have a lot of different videos, but my favorite by far are the Thoughts from Places series, in which they videotape a day of their lives from the moment they wake up, then reflect on that day later on, and write a narrative to go over the video. I love this series because it makes the mundane beautiful and reminds me how each moment has some significance, even if we don't always notice it. So for my senior project, I decided to do just that. I decided to notice the little beautiful moments in my life. So here you go. One day of mine and the thoughts behind them for your viewing pleasure. I woke up a few weeks ago on a Saturday morning, early enough for me to film everything I wanted to.
I want to sleep.
I got dressed, brushed my teeth, did my makeup,
Why am I even filming this?
and went downstairs to be greeted by my mother, who had made me breakfast and tea. Thanks, Mom. A few minutes later, we were on the road, headed for the neighborhood I grew up in, anxious for the end of our ride, which would include visiting my childhood home, a home of both fond memories and pain that now belonged to someone else. We hadn't seen it in years. We've never even met the people who live there now, but we left that for last and made our way somewhere else. It should come as no surprise that I feel most at home in a bookstore. I've spent probably a fourth of the past 3 years in this bookstore alone. I love the pit area that used to be part of a theater. I love the independent coffee shop that has the best baristas and chai lattes you will ever come in contact with. I love the working balconies that have plentiful outlets, and holy shit, it's open. You don't understand. There's hardly ever a time where both balconies aren't already occupied. It's the perfect place to work, and everyone knows it. I may or may not have sat there for a moment enjoying the disgruntled faces as they realized it was taken. Faces that I've shared many, many times. Victory is sweet! Anyway, this is where I'd like to say I spend most of my time fine-tuning my craft. I don't. I'd like to say I spend most of my time here learning how to enhance my writing. I don't. This, unfortunately, is where I actually spend most of my time, fawning over notebooks that I can't afford and don't need, trying to bargain with myself about how I really need this one and there's no other blank notebook at home that could possibly fulfill that which this new one could. To my own benefit, money usually wins out and I don't end up buying stuff I don't need. Here, however, is where my money doesn't win out, and I buy way too many books than I'll actually read. I love young adult fiction. I love reading what most would see as somewhat primitive thought and finding it to be some of the most moving literature out there. I love sci-fi and fantasy, realistic fiction, and not. I decided to visit John's books and the Harry Potter books because I was feeling nostalgic. I would spend hours here if time permitted, but we had other things to see that day, so I smiled at the Hogwarts sign behind the desk and left for lunch at the Brae Tavern. I've had more meals in this tavern than any other restaurant. My father used to drive out here just to bring their pizza and spaghetti home because they didn't deliver. So to honor him and the times we spent there, I got a Shirley Temple side of soup and spaghetti, my usual order from when I was little. I was having trouble trying to set up a shot, and noticing this awesome guy took it upon himself to film it for me.
And this kind man helped me get the last shot, because he's awesome.
This kind of man helped you get an A in your project.
Yep.
He's a much better cameraman than I, that's for sure. We exchanged emails so I could send him the video after it was done, and later it dawned on me that his name was Chuck, the same name as the man I was named after, my father's friend who died in a motorcycle accident. There I was, in the tavern my father and I used to frequent, and years later a man with my namesake was helping me with a project about my early life. It's strange how things work out like that. So next we were headed to my old neighborhood's main hangout, Pearl Street, which is not the Boulder Mall, but rather a small collection of independent shops where everyone knows your name and acquaintances become friends. But before we got there, we had to pass through the Tunnel of Silent Trees, as I like to call it. Some people have strange traditions that creep up on them out of nowhere, and this is mine. I don't know why, but for some reason I could never bring myself to speak while driving on this road. Like, the tunnel was so fragile and sacred that one too loudly spoken word would cause the entire structure to crumble. So for this next part, I'd like to take a moment of silence. This is Stella's Coffeehouse, the heart of Pearl Street, where I had my first cup of coffee, where my friends and I used to huddle around the fire and tell jokes, where you can get an amazing butterscotch steamer, which tastes like butterbeer. It's also where I put up all my babysitting and dog walking posters as a kid, and where every time you do not tip, a monkey slaps a Smurf. So Mom and I got our beverages and then headed to what would probably be the hardest part of this trip, 1800 South Sherman Street. This is the house I grew up in, where I spent 15 years of my life, minus one, while it was rebuilt after it burned down. It used to have a large yard and a tree house, which was demolished to make room for another house. This is the tree we planted in my grandfather's memory, which the significance of isn't even known by the people who live here. This is my old bedroom window, and as I looked at it, I was struck by the thought of another little girl looking out of it, dreaming of Harry Potter and fairies, and of one day where she might escape it for greener pastures, something I will be doing in a few months now. I hope she will find time to appreciate the beautiful little things like I've just started to learn how to do.